Want me to try to recall or re video call you or something?
Yeah, you know what? Let's try it one more. Let's try again.
Here we go.
Do 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 do. Hello.
I can see you. I can hear you.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know. It's just your icon. Your icon kind of flashing, like it's talking. Are you getting like my J expanding when I speak?
Yeah,
yeah. That's what I get from your.
You can see my bald head just going wom wom.
Yeah,
wom.
kind of like you're radiating. It's like, whoa. How you doing, man? How you?
I'm good, man. Yeah? It's my birthday.
It's your birthday today. Happy birthday.
Today is my birthday. Thank you.
Oh, I had no idea.
No worries, man. My age is not something you want to celebrate. No, I'm just kidding. I'm fine with it. 51 today.
Wow.
And just
feeling good. You celebrate a little bit?
Feeling good. We did not really today, funny enough, because I was going to take off work. It's a long, boring story, but I ended up not. And so I just worked today. But we had a nice kind of celebratory weekend, I guess. We went to what I think is one of the more fun, more delicious restaurants in the area called Los Arcos. It's a Mexican restaurant.
Oh, you've been digging that place, the Mexican place.
Been totally digging it. And so we went there. It's just like a big, fun, festive, huge place. It's actually this amazing operation, but they do like legit food there. And we had Sarah's folks, some family there, and Sarah, of course, had to tell them. And so the three dudes, they weren't quite a mariachi band, but they were like three dudes in all black, came out with the server, this woman, and they had a sombrero for me. Oh. And I had my fried ice cream, which I love. So anyway, that was fun. We did that. And then last night, actually, we went out again and met her folks for some really good barbecue. So anyway, so had fun with that. And today was just more chill. Sarah got me a nice little cake, and just some good times. And I'm like, what better way to spend my birthday than with my co-host on the podcast?
Yeah, man. Thank you. This was your last weekend in Boulder, is that right?
That's right. So this is our last full weekend. We are set to roll out of Boulder early on Saturday, as early as possible.
Okay.
And, we'll lose an hour back in Chicago, but we hope to be back, do the drive straight through. It's roughly a dozen hours or so. So we'll put the cat and all our crap in the car and drive back to Chicago after, 2+ months, I guess. So, this is the last weekend, and it went by fast, but it was good.
It was fast, man. I mean, it seems like you just went there recently.
I know. It's weird. Time is such a funny thing. Like, it feels like it went fast, but it also feels like a long time ago that we left and got here. Cause I remember like the drive in and like in great vivid detail. And, we got in like right before Christmas. So no, it's been overwhelmingly just super great. So we've had a blast, and part of us, especially part of Sarah, doesn't want to leave.
Sure,
which I totally get. But part of me does want to go back, and we can explore the reasons why. So that's the deal. And got out for a nice long ride yesterday. I did not ride on Saturday. We went for a little hike, and took off Friday, and I did a short ride Friday. That was cool. Yeah, just doing that kind of stuff. That's our situation, man.
Well, that's your girlfriend, Sarah. That's her hometown. So I imagine having her family there and being there, it's very easy for her to just kind of. It's very comfortable for her. And now it's time to leave.
You're right. It's exactly that. And she's not exactly from Boulder for the record, but she is from right around here. So all the suburbs kind of blend like Chicago, I guess. So she's from just near Boulder. Her parents are like a 10-15 minute drive, so just jump on the highway and you're there. And they're from a town called Superior, which has that cool climb from American Flyers. And and then her father lives in Westminster, I believe, which is
Mhm.
just, a bordering kind of suburb, part of the sprawl, whatever. So,
Yeah,
yeah, but
she's essentially at home, though. I mean, in that
yeah,
area. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly. But everyone's close
Mhm.
geographically and close emotionally. So no, it's going to be definitely, there are going to be some tears shed when we have to leave. It's
Mhm.
it's it's just looming, but it's been great to be back and hang out with her family, and obviously all these other reasons like bike riding and stuff like that. But yeah, it's going to be hard. It's been great for her to just be back, because this is the first time she spent any real time here in over probably something like 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
she's come back a lot, but
Uh-huh.
it's a lot of like 3-day trips,
Sure, yeah. You haven't.
maybe a week, but in term, there's obviously a great difference in actually being here
Mhm.
the day to day for longer term. Just like all the fun, spontaneous stuff, like, hey, let's pop out for lunch, or hey, we're coming by and we just popped on your doorstep, and just like let's go. Let's. It seems like it's all food related, but yeah,
Yeah.
let's pop out for a meal, and so it's been really great actually, and I've just selfishly enjoyed it too for the cycling, but
Well, and you've
um,
just started to get comfortable there in the bike
yeah,
community. It seems like you've just met, you've the weather's finally settled down a little bit, and it looks like you've been able to ride a little more consistently.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
It's been the theme has been that it's been one of the harder, colder, snowstormier kind of winters that they've had. But no, it's exactly right. Like every week that goes by, I like hook up with like a new group ride,
Hmm.
or just kind of randomly kind of meet up with someone who's pops up in your feed, or anything like that. And it's obviously a great community. And yesterday there was a funny situation where we had like 3 group rides passing each other.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of surreal. But bigger point, yeah, it's been amazing, and just yeah, of late it's been uh pretty warm. Like we had a really warm weekend. Like it was kind of like staged, it seemed, in a good way. Like it was like 50 or right around there, all and sunny all weekend, and now it looks like it's gonna get a little colder. But no, it's been great, and yeah, like I said, we're going to be sad to leave, but part of me is also happy to get back to Chicago, mainly because of the food, Joe.
Yeah. Well, that's part of it. I mean, that's good. I'm sure being home with your stuff too, and just kind of it's a good time to
Yeah.
roll back into the city, just as the
Hmm.
weather's getting good, because you know that. You know how Chicago gets once when those early spring days hit. It's just everybody's crazy in the street.
Hmm.
It's just like it's just people are so eager to get out and get some sun. And I mean, there's a palpable energy in the city when we get those first nice days of the year
Oh,
of the season. You know.
you can't beat it. I know
Hmm.
we've talked about it, and it's
Yeah.
been the subject of memes. But you can't beat that really awesome, like first warm sunny day in Chicago.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and even
Everyone
like
just like loses their shit, calling in sick to work. Like, let's
oh,
meet up.
yeah, and at the bike shop, like even for us at the shop, it's always, it's to expect those days, and we're at that point where, at any point, we can have this weekend in Chicago, we had a 50-degree. It was like a 50-degree
Did
Sunday.
you?
Hmm. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Did
It
you get
wasn't.
out for a ride, or?
No, no. I mean, it's not for me. It's not riding weather. It's still a little wet too. It was like I think we had some rain, or it's Chicago. So one morning we have snow, then the next day it's like 45 degrees, and it's just a mess. Everything's a
Yeah.
bit of a mess right now.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of there's a lot of activity at the shop. People are getting ready for spring, and people are coming in and buying bikes, which is really wow. That's been pretty cool.
Great, man.
Hmm. Yeah, I think we talked about it before, how I didn't think it was going to be as bad as everybody thought, and I'm starting to get the feeling that it's going to be way better than anybody thought, for certain
Nice.
people. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting people coming into the shop that weren't able to buy the bike they wanted, people that kind of held out, who were smart, kind of rode what
Hmm.
they had. They said, I'll wait till I can get what I want. And now they're coming in and they're checking back in, like good customers, people that were here maybe a year ago, and they said, "Hey, Joe, you said come back a year from now." Well, here I am, and are things any better? And I'm like, "Well, yes, they are," and so that's been really that's been pretty cool. It's like
Nice.
an old customer, old time customers, customers that have been coming to the shop for 10 years and who like apparently listened to me when I said, wait another year, things are going to get better. There's going to be plenty of stuff. Don't buy anything right now, or, don't buy under duress. And they're, they took my advice, and I'm getting phone calls on the weekends, and people are coming in, and, I got a phone call right as I was leaving work. I almost didn't pick up the phone because I was locking up. I was about to walk out the door, and I grabbed the call, and it was a customer that was the exact scenario. We had spoken last year. I told him to wait. He called, and he's going to come in this weekend and get a bike. So, nice. some nice bikes. I also have customers buying like custom builds, like nothing over the top, but nice bikes, very nice bikes, and people that started riding during the pandemic who are ready for their nice bike, who kind of who got their foot in the door with a hybrid, an $500-$600 hybrid, and now they're ready for, now they know what they want. They have a better idea of what they're doing with the bike, and they're just starting their journey into this in the world of cycling, which is great.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, we've been in it for a long time, but if you go back to when we first started riding bikes, you start with one bike, but eventually you start ending, you just start collecting bikes, right? Because you need different styles of bikes, or you want to ride in a different place. I think for us it was like a road bike and then a mountain bike, and for a lot of people that are coming in these days, they started with a hybrid and now they're ready for their, road bike or gravel bike,
ready for the world tour.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun, and these people,
cool.
These people are, there are some of them, a lot of them are quite older than what we were when we first got into the sport, but to see them with that, to see a 50, 55-year-old, 60-year-old with that excitement that we had, when we first started is kind of cool,
Very cool. Are they buying mostly like gravel, mountain, road? What are they buying?
Yeah, definitely that style of bike, all road. Nobody with 25, 28C, road bikes. They're all kind of gravel, all road, something along those lines,
right.
But, wanting to cover a little bit of distance and definitely not wanting to ride on the street. So that's a real big thing that I'm sensing too, is that just people wanting to get off the road. There's a lot of fear of riding on the streets these days. And
I know. Yeah.
And it's really hard to tell those people no, that they're not right. It is a little tricky out there, and there's a lot more traffic in our area than there was. But we're really fortunate to have a bike path across the street that, you could ride 80 miles if you have the right bike. You can 80 miles in one direction. So it's and that's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. It's been a good start so far to the season, and having help. So I've had a little help now in the shop, and it's been a long time since there's been help in the shop, and it's starting to feel like a bike shop again, which is cool.
So it's Tim, right? Your new mechanic?
That's Tom.
Tom, sorry, I was confused. Tim and Tom. So is Tom? Is he on board now? Has he come in a couple of days so far, or what?
Yeah, he's been in a couple of days. He doesn't have I haven't given him a regular schedule yet, and he's still kind of working his way out of a prior job. So, right now anything I can get from him is a bonus. But I have Earl. Earl's been coming in for 4 days a week right now. Nice. And between him and I, we have all the repair stuff covered. Although these now with these bike builds and things, I think that the timing will be perfect for Tom to come in and
Nice.
I've got wheel builds scheduled and cool stuff. Just stuff that has been very, very difficult to do over the last 3 years, or in some
Yeah.
cases even impossible. Like, some
Right.
of this stuff, just even if you wanted to build it, you couldn't, just because the parts were, you couldn't find the parts. So,
Exciting times, Joe.
yeah. I mean, it's just it. I guess it's exciting. It's something that we've done for a long, long time, but I guess the fact that we haven't been able to do it for 2 or 3 years, 2 or 3 seasons, that's what's making it exciting. But as far as like the work goes, it's something that we grew up doing, and it's just fun you forget how much you missed it, for sure.
No, that's cool. It sounds like a lot of good things happening.
Yeah. I mean, all this, all the doom and gloom talk. I think that there's, like I said, I think I said it before. I don't think that it's going to be nearly as bad as what people have been predicting. So
It kind of mirrors the economy. Everyone's talking about this potential looming recession, and are we going to have a hard landing or a soft landing after the pandemic? And looks, a lot of people are talking about this so-called Goldilocks situation, like a soft landing, and things won't be amazing, but not nearly as bad as a lot predicted. That seems to be the consensus. So I'm not an economist, but that's what I've been reading. So maybe there's some analog there.
yeah,
sounds like good times.
I think bike shops have always been, a good place to judge things. You get such a cross section of people coming through a bike shop, all walks of life, and
like an economic indicator.
Yeah, I mean, just people talk. People, you get a sense of what people are feeling, and are they fixing the bike? Are they buying a new one? It's always been. I remember when I opened the shop. It was during the housing recession. It was like 2000, 2009, 2000. Yeah, it was right. Just as that was.
I know it well, Joe. I took a bath, but I'm not going to go there.
Oh, gee. Well, just as that was all happening there.
Yeah.
And that first winter, I would have people. I had a lot of tradesmen. People that were in the trades, and they were like riding in the woods all day long, or at least pretending to be riding in the woods all day long, and then they'd come and hang out at the shop and drink beer all day because because they couldn't be at home.
Right.
Their wives would kick them out because they were driving them nuts. Or they were just trying to clear their heads a little bit. But I mean, I had a club of people that would just hang out at the shop. It started with a couple of them, and then the word got out, and there had never been a hangout spot in that area. There'd never been a bike shop there. And so all of a sudden, there's this bike shop popped up. There was a big parking lot out in front, and I'd have this party of out of work mountain bikers drinking and hanging out in my parking lot and in the bike shop.
Sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was, the B, my shop is small, so the BO got a little thick.
A lot of moist flannels.
Oh man, there was one day I was I don't know, I was working on a bike. A guy came in and he was talking to me. I wasn't paying too much attention. I was trying to work on a bike, and he was talking a lot, and I wasn't going to kick him out. I was going to let him do what he was just blabbing about stuff. And I had my head down. I don't know what I was putting in a bottom bracket or something that involved, me focusing on the bike. And when I picked up my head and looked over, he had stripped down and he had clothes hanging on all my brand new bikes. He had it looked like,
no.
oh yeah. There were like socks. I mean, it was like his whole wardrobe was just it was all out on display. Hanging.
Gross.
Oh, it was a little gross. It was a little gross. Yeah.
Well, they say a lot of home fitness, like the stat I always heard was staggering. Like 90+% of home fitness equipment goes unused, and I think people use it to hang their clothes on. So maybe he was, force of habit. But no, that's such an interesting thing too. I think there are certain barometers. Like I could see like a bike shop being kind of an indicator because, bikes in some ways are essential, of course, for some people. For others, it's more of a discretionary spend, and if you want to upgrade your bike, maybe you'll hold off. So yeah, you're kind of like you got your finger on the pulse. You probably have a interesting point of view of what's going on too with people's finances and their spending habits.
Yeah, there's what I think there might be some trouble maybe at that entry level price point, at that $500, $600 price point, but people buying nice bikes, man, there is not a lot of hesitation, like people aren't hesitating to treat themselves a little bit because every bike that I sold this weekend, I told people to go for it. Like that's my new thing. I'm like, go for it, man. There was somebody who was like, he was buying a brand new bike, and I'm like, you need water bottle cages for that? And he's like, oh, I think I got two somewhere in the garage at home. And I don't know what came over me, but I'm like, dude, you're buying a brand new bike. Get a couple of new cages. Treat yourself, man. You only live once. And he looked at me and he's like, you know what? Give me the 2 water bottle cages. And
there you go.
And so I'm just like, I think I'm also just, I don't know, I'm old now and I'm feeling it. And now I can, I can just set people straight. I'm like, you're buying a brand new bike, man. Come on, splurge.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself for some fresh water bottle cages.
Yeah, man, live large. Get some nice Aero ones,
Yeah, I talked somebody into some new to some nicer wheels today.
Whoa.
Just, yeah. I'm like, treat yourself, man. Wheels, they're a good place to spend your money.
As the kids say, YOLO, right?
Yeah.
You only live once.
He spent an extra $300 on wheels. And
man, look at you.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, that's I'm gonna be no, not necessarily pushy either. Just like real stuff. Like when he was gonna buy the cheap ones, and he was thinking about it. I'm like, listen, man, I mean, they're wheels. You're building a kind of your dream bike, or this really nice custom build. Don't skimp out on the wheels.
Yeah, why hold back?
Why hold back? Exactly. And he's like, yeah, give it to me. And give me a rack. He's like, and give me a rear rack too. And I'm like, yeah, that's the way. That's it. That's
those strip waffles look good too.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was just it was fun. It's fun to take people shopping, for bike stuff, and it's also just been such a long time since I've been able to do that. We've been so as an industry, we've been so reactive. It's like, well, I don't have much for you. I've got this one, and it's like, well, I guess I'll take that one. Like that's been our business, like that's how it's been in the bike business for a lot of shops, for almost 3 seasons. I don't know. I got this one.
Any color you want except purple.
Yeah, I got that. like really, that's been my sales pitch really for almost 3 years. It's like, well, I got that one. I can put the handlebars up a little bit for you. How about that?
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I'm stoked to get back. And the time here has been amazing, but all eyes on getting back to Chicago and
with your high altitude fitness, Danny.
Oh, I'm gonna go and crush. No, I'm not. But it's nice to fantasize.
But you must have. I mean, you certainly have a little. You're going to come back with a little bit better fitness than the average Chicagoan. Than the average bike guy. I mean,
Yeah, I'd like to think that's true. But all jokes aside, I did acclimate my little Garmin. I never know how much to read into these little things they spit at you, but I officially acclimated to 5,600 feet, which I think is just about Boulder. So, I don't know how it really works. I should probably talk to a specialist, but, acclimating, I think is partly, just being here, being here 24/7 for days and weeks, but I'm not sure, I would assume that workouts, long rides, punchy rides, whatever riding in general can accelerate that. Or at least make it better quality if that's a thing. But I'm looking forward to getting back and especially back on our old, our home. The Airbnb we've had has been really great actually. But no matter what, East West home is best kind of thing. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked, but it was cool. I got out yesterday for what was it turned out to be my longest ride, which isn't anything remarkable, but for me it was kind of cool. I did like a 70-mile ride. It was that they call it the super training, the Waffles ride.
Yeah, you were able to do 2 of those now, right?
Yeah, it was so cool that it just it worked out that we stayed a little bit longer, and I got to do this one. I was really hoping to just to kind of like bookend things nicely. So we got out.
What was that ride? So that ride again, for people that maybe didn't hear that episode, what was that super training ride all about?
Yeah, so they call it super training. One word. So if you search Instagram, you'll find super training. You'll find online what they're all about. But yeah, basically it's this rather large organized ride, and it's a series. I think they do it once a month. Don't quote me, but it's in Boulder, and it's I don't know if it's sponsored or just presented by or supported by, but there's a Subaru dealer here very close to where our Airbnb is in Central Boulder. And I forgot the charity, but a lot of they ask you for a donation, and they're raffling off some bikes and some bike stuff. It's not exactly a supported ride, but they do have 2 cars that go out, and they're kind of like managing traffic. Because these groups can get really, really big. And like yesterday's groups were pretty big, but I've heard in the summer they can get like, I think 150, 200 people on these rides. So it's like a pro Peloton. So yesterday's ride, I would guesstimate around 40 in the B group, and then the A group, which was like the faster ride, I think that was even bigger, like maybe 60. So we had, give or take 100 riders out there. But they kind of have a couple folks out there in cars, supporting anyone who needs it. So it is kind of supported. It's not really advertised as such, I don't think, but they kind of also help with traffic. So if there's a particularly busy area, like intersection, they'll go ahead and like block off traffic just for like a hot minute and let us go through. And it's just really well oiled and really well done, well organized. So it was so funny. I show up and I saw Mike Friedman. His nickname is Meatball. And he's a former pro, and he was an Olympian. And I actually
Garmin guy, right? He used to be when they were orange and blue. I remember.
Yes, him. He was on a couple different teams. Kelly Benefits, Garmin for a while, I think, and some others. But he had a good run. I want to say maybe a decade or so as a pro. But I actually interviewed him, Joe, at Tour of California back in the day, about 10 years ago. So. It was kind of trippy seeing him, and then I saw Brian Worthy, that guy we talked about before, had a Worthy sighting, which is a little hashtag, and then talked to a couple other really cool people. So anyway, that's just a monthly thing they do, and
it's got to be fun to be in a place that fun and intimidating, I think. Just because there's like, you certainly found people that you could hang with, but man, oh man, when you've got pros and a lot of wannabe pros zooming around you, it's like, whoa.
And it's really cool. Everyone's just like I've said before and hopefully conveyed, like there's like almost no attitude. Like everyone is just, let your legs do the talking, leave it out on the road. Sure. It becomes very immediately clear who's really fast, who's hanging on for dear life, and who's getting dropped. But there's actually no attitude. It's really cool. But if people want to find it, they go to Waffels.com, Vafels.com, and they have a link for super training. But the coolest thing though was, and I was kind of kicking myself for not being in better shape, but there's this very popular Strava KOM that is basically like a short climb that leads right up to the reservoir. And, the super fast guys, the pros, they'll do it in like 3 minutes, and then like, and then everything after that. But it's kind of a cool climb, and it kind of zigzags a bit and takes you up, but it's very picturesque up there. And and then you kind of just do this big loop coming back. Anyway, so super fun, and I'm going to get out for one or two more rides, if not three, maybe this week. And we have a couple like family, things to do, but excited to come back to Chicago and, get you out for a ride.
Yeah. Well, you can jump on one of those raffle rides and go kick their ass. Go show them your top end speed, Danny.
I don't think I'll be kicking anyone's ass, but I think I'll be having. But I think I will be having some fun. It's funny we're joking about it, but I actually am kind of excited to get back and do some more group rides. One of the things I just kind of realized is group rides are pretty cool. Group rides are pretty fun, and it's not like I stopped doing them, decisively at some point or intentionally. I just kind of got lone wolfy, and I like to ride a lot solo. It's just it's that good quality time, good quality thinking time, and personal time, because we live in such a loud, chaotic world. But I kind of miss doing the group rides. They're really fun. And, if you get in the right one, it's like challenging because, you'll like my thing is I'm just like a bigger guy and I'm currently overweight. So anytime we go uphill, I'm like really struggling. But I love the flats. Like I can hang on the flats, more or less. But, if you get in the right ride, like obviously you have faster riders, that makes you faster. And you get really, cool group rides, people who know what they're doing and they know the area, so they can take you on like the best of the best. Jokes aside, the Rafa Chicago shop actually has some good group rides. I've done a few of them in the past, and they know the kind of the best, best roads up north and beyond too. So
yeah, I mean, it helps to. Well, one, it helps to be in shape, so I mean, it's easier to show up for a group ride when you're feeling good and you've prepared a little bit for them. So I mean, I think that definitely helps when it comes time to head down to the group ride. You see all those really fit riders, and it's like you want to be a part of that. It's
at least for some of the ride.
yeah. Well, as much as you can, right? I mean, and that's cool, man. That's good. Oh, well, I mean, you got what you wanted out of this time, which is great. That motivation, and I think it goes all the way back to you buying the bike and getting in. Just kind of. I mean, it's been part of the process, right? It's you gradually have kind of gotten to this point where, you're doing group rides with 150 people. If you look back a year ago, you were just getting the bike, right? I mean,
I wouldn't have driven near a group ride, let alone ridden near one.
Yeah. Well, that's good, right? I mean, so that's, I mean, it's, you lose, you forget sometimes, that things take time, just, and especially the training and getting back in shape, and just how difficult it is to kind of find your legs. I definitely run into that a little bit where, that first summer back on the bike, I was a little discouraged by the progress I had. I thought I was in better shape, and I had lost a lot of weight. I did lose the weight part. The weight had come off, but I didn't get any power. I think I lost weight so quickly that, I also lost muscle along the way. And I actually see it now, like, now that I'm doing these indoor rides a little bit, like, the power's up, I mean, I haven't been riding nearly as much as I did that first spring and summer that I got back on the bike.
Right.
But, just kind of looking at the numbers that, what I'm able to do now, it's like, wow, I'm not riding as much, but my power is definitely a lot better. And,
cool.
It's like, wow, I didn't have that, I could never have done that a year ago. So, so that's good,
that's good for you, man. Yeah. It's there's definitely been an arc, and I feel like I'm going through it. So like getting, beginning pandemic, like right around there, it just so happened I got rid of all my bikes, and I didn't even have a bike. I didn't even have like a bike, even like a little single speed for fun or something.
Yeah.
And there was a dearth of bikes, and just no, it's been super good. And I've been able to get out a lot. I didn't do like staggering miles, but I think the quality was like insane. Like this quality of the rides I've been doing has been way, way better than I could have imagined.
Yeah, it's funny how like you said, staggering miles. I didn't get these staggering miles in because it's still in the back. It lingers in the back of our head. Like, oh man, I got to do staggering miles. I
got to do my base 500 miles.
I got to go do big mileage. And it's not really. I mean, like I said, our that's our default setting, and it's hard to get off of that training bike racing default setting that you have. That everything has to be hard, and everything's got to have a purpose to it. And every ride has to have a purpose, and
right.
It's learning how to have fun on the bike, right, and learning how to just find that balance between pushing yourself and getting in better shape. As opposed to like training, there's a fine line. There's a fine line there, right? And
there really is. And some of the rides I've done here, some of my funnest rides were rides where I was just on I wasn't in Lycra. I was just in like casual riding clothes and threw on my SPD sneakers and just went out and just zoomed around town and like ended up on some like dirt path. Nothing hardcore, but I'm in this like big open space park kind of situation right near the Rockies and just riding along. And next thing I know, an hour's passed and I'm like, oh, I'll stop for coffee and whatever. Just, some of those have been like the most fun rides. And we talked before, like Boulder's like network of bike paths is truly amazing. But I think it's also a good point too. And I think some listeners might be like, oh, come on, like you're overstating it. Like, but I think it's a really good point. Like there is a difference between like just going out and enjoying and riding your bike and also being kind of maybe obsessed is too strong, but just being so focused on like the training. And I feel much more realistic about things. And it's not to say I've conceded. It's more just like I realize, if you work for a living, if you have a family, any of those things, like, you're not 40 or 30 or 20 anymore. So I'm just kind of realistic about it. But having said all that, the quality of the rides here has been pretty dope. So all's well that ends well. So I'm excited. If I can if you keep that momentum that you've got, and I can find a little extra time to ride this year, and having a little extra help at the shop helps. Hopefully it'll give me a little more time to ride and want to be on a bike. That it bodes well for a good summer, a good riding summer. Yeah, man. Joe, I have a little thing that I was thinking about doing, and I was gonna enlist someone, and I'm sitting there thinking like, who could I get to do this? Because some of my best cycling buddies are back in New York, but I'm like, wait a minute, Joe.
Uh-oh.
So, Joe, I have this idea that you and I are going to go do like so I know summers and spring are your big time, but maybe we can do it where we get 3 days off, like midweek. And we basically go do some credit card camping. And so we get those cool little hip bags that people put under their saddles for like, long distance riding. We get some bags on the bikes and get some tires pumped up, and we go do kind of like a tour of Illinois, our own version. I was thinking something like maybe 100 miles or 80 miles a day for like 3 days. And so we'll plan the route. But basically we'd leave from your shop. We could go somewhere far, like do like an 80, 100 mile easy ride and camp somewhere. By camping, I mean check into a hotel, have dinner, pass out, wake up, go to do the middle leg, repeat third leg home. So does that sound appealing to you, sir?
Yeah, there's actually there's a ride.
You hesitated there. You scared me.
Because I was this might work perfectly with something that I was planning for this summer, which is the Starved Rock ride, this bike packing 101 ride that I've been kicking around. Actually,
you talked about that.
first year of the pandemic, we were going to do it, and then everything blew up, and now we have the opportunity to maybe do it this year, and it's a place called Starved Rock, which is about 80 miles from the shop, and most of that path is gravel. After 13 miles or so, it becomes a limestone trail, so not true gravel.
Right.
And it's about 80 miles there. Plenty of places to camp and, bread and breakfast and stuff down in that area. And then that area offers really good riding. I mean, it's actually the site of a place. It's where the Bike Psychos, the Oak Lawn Bike Psychos, your former hometown club, used to do their century ride in that area. So there's some beautiful loops in that, in and around the vicinity of Starved Rock. So you can easily, knock out a metric century or a full on, their whole, the full century ride. I've got those maps of that area and then ride home basically, that third day,
Yeah, that could be one. So you're saying, or the bike shop. Are we saying it at this point?
No. I'm gonna have to. It's all right. I'm gonna have to beep you out.
Okay. That anonymous bike shop. The ABS, the anonymous bike shop. So you're saying there to Starved Rock, and then do like a long ride to and from Starved Rock second day, and then third day Starved Rock back to anonymous bike shop.
Yeah, essentially do like the Bike Psycho Century ride down there. It's because it's a ride that I used to work support for.
So you kind of know it.
Yeah, I know that ride. We would work support. I think we did it for every year that I've had the bike shop. And then they discontinued the ride during the pandemic. It was the last, then the group disbanded. So unfortunately, they don't do that ride anymore. But it was in its 35th or 35th year, something like that. I mean, they went over 30 years easily with that ride.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, and it's I always enjoyed that ride. We would work support and then get done in the afternoon, and then we would do half of it. We would do 40, 50 miles of that ride after we were done working, SAG for the ride. So
I just pulled up their Facebook page, Bike Psycho Century. Last century was 2019, so it looks like they've gone a little quiet, but that sounds cool, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's really nice. It's a pretty part of the state. Just a lot of farm fields and windmills and wind turbines, because there's a lot of them down in that area. A lot of soy and corn. Very America. Yeah. It's also Tornado Alley. So you get a lot of tornadoes ripping through that area. I've been down there like right after tornadoes or right before tornadoes, and just kind of amazing to see what the kind of power that those things have. The effects of one. So
not to be messed with. That's for sure. No, very cool. I'm just cruising the cool Facebook page here. I say we do that, man.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of ride where there could easily be like 20 people tagging along with us.
Nice, yeah, and we could figure out like the better hotel to check into, have some dinner, pass out. Like I said, wake up, ride again. That sounds like fun, man.
Yeah, some people will want to camp, which I'll find a place for those. I'll find a patch of grass for those people, but nice. I'll stay in a place with a shower.
Yeah, well,
see you later, people.
There ain't nothing wrong with that. As the man said. So,
no, it's like I say to my wife. I'm like, I've earned. I don't need to stay. I stayed in plenty of hostels. And I don't need to hear people farting around me anymore. Well, especially people I don't know.
I was going to say,
strangers. Strangers.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. No.
But there is something nice about obviously doing the bike packing thing, but something nice too about having a nice meal, a little glass of wine,
Yep.
nice shower,
Oh, for sure,
and
man.
and a comfy bed, bug
Oh,
free.
we're dandies. We're bicycle dandies.
Oscar Wilde's on bike.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, super cool. So
Oh, well,
everything's good.
let's start. Well, you say it out loud, it might actually happen, Danny. So
I'm totally serious. I feel like a good time to do it would be like June.
I won't commit to dates right now. June
No,
is
I understand. I'm not
but
pressing you,
no,
but
no, no. I'm just thinking.
macro
Yeah,
picture wise.
yeah. I'm just thinking my season. Season wise, June can be a little tricky just because it's the height like that. That
Can
May,
you
June.
can you anoint Tom and others to run the shop for 3 days while you're gone? Or
Yeah, if they get, if they get up to speed, that's the goal. I mean, that really is that's why I've been holding out for this, for the right people. First of all, someone that you trust. Second of all, someone who can do the work, someone who can fix and tend to customers. And, it's a small shop. So you have to be able to do everything, answer the phones, sell a bike, fix a bike, and someone who I know will take care of my customers. So
yeah, of course.
So it's that's why it's been so difficult to find the right person. Yeah, and Tom is fully capable of doing that stuff. So yeah, if I get him up to speed, that shouldn't be a problem.
Well,
the problem might be him wanting to come along with us.
Oh, does he like to ride? Does he ride regularly?
He wants to ride. I think that's part of what he I don't think he's never done the distances that we did
Sure.
that we've done, but I think part of his goal just in life in general is to be able to enjoy the bike a little bit more. He definitely used to ride a little bit more in his life, and I think having access to a nice path across the street, an easy ride, and also people to ride with, people that want to go out for an after work ride, will encourage him to get out and have a little fun. So I'm looking forward to, I want to bring him along, Danny. I want him to, he's like a year behind us, where we're at mentally, where
Gotcha.
you were getting on the bike and rethinking and trying to find your way again on the bicycle and all of that. I think he is right at the beginning of that. He's made the decision.
Sure.
He's starting to do that stuff. He's committed to working back in a bike shop. So I think he's a little bit behind us. We're up the road, as they say, Danny.
We can help him along. We can take some strong pulls for him.
We can be like the guys that stop. We got permission from the Peloton to ride ahead and hug our cousins and
the old days.
See our friends and have a little glass of wine. The whole town comes out and get manhandled over there by a bunch of drunks. That was my favorite. Those were my favorite Tour de France scenes, Danny. They don't do that very much anymore.
It's so funny you said that, because that is a sign of the times. That never happens anymore at all. Zero. There's no way that's going to ever be allowed again, because so many reasons. But the race is so much faster now. You listen to a lot of analysis and it's just kind of one of many themes. But the racing now, from the gun, there's really no like let up. There's no like slow hour anymore. Like, it's get the breakaway started, but even then,
it's all business.
The Peloton's not letting a break go 10 minutes anymore. It might get a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but the racing is hardcore. You couldn't even probably physically get up the road if they said, okay, sure, but we're already doing like 25 miles an hour. Like, I don't know. It's such a sign of the times when you said that. I'm like, wow, that just never happens anymore.
No.
And for folks who maybe don't know what the hell we're talking about, but back in the day, like, there'd be like let's say the Tour de France or the Giro d'Italia or the Vuelta or whatever, race it was. But, it'd be very customary if there was like a rider who was from somewhere along the route, the race for that day. So, we're coming up to our town, like, hey, I'm from Oak Lawn. Is it okay if I ride up, say hello to my folks? And they'd be like, yeah, go ahead. The patron, the patron of the Peloton would kind of allow it and be like, okay, sure, but no funny stuff, because that's happened too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But anyway, they'd be let up the road, and 5-10 miles or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they just pull over, see all their family, friends, girlfriends, wives,
Yeah. Grandma would come out and give them a big hug.
yeah, mistresses, whoever.
Yeah.
Feed them a big sub or something.
Yeah. They
Or
they toast. There was like
yeah,
like the whole town would come out.
and the photographers were there, and
Yeah.
it was like a whole thing. And then the peloton, the bunch would come up, or the breakaway or whatever, and they would just you get back on and rejoin the group. And it was like this great tradition that happened like all the time back in the day.
All the time.
But now you can't even imagine that happen. There's no way it's ever going to happen, which is crazy and kind of a bummer.
It is. I mean, well, the sport has lost a lot of its romanticism. I mean,
totally.
Beware of what you wish for when you say professionalizing a sport, or sport's got to get more professional. And these sponsors that have come along, and these global obligations to these global brands. It's really changed things. Back in the old days when it was the car dealership and the cheese company, and it's regional wars. My cheese is better than your cheese, and my champagne is better than yours. My car, my Peugeot is better than your Citroen. It was like it really was like inter-country wars. Wars of brands.
Right.
And it's nothing like that anymore.
It would just look so crazy and surreal if that was ever allowed again. Like it would just be, that'd be like the story of the month or the year for cycling. Like, remember when they let that guy go up the road? Like that hasn't happened in like a decade or two.
Yeah. I mean, it would almost be like it's a novel thing if it happened these days. And and I'll tell you, like back in the day, when the Volta a España would come through, one thing that the local clubs would do is we would go out of town about 10 miles on the route, and you would wait for the race to come, and you'd let all the leaders go by, and then you jump in the race.
Oh, nice.
So you'd ride like in the back of the, there would be like, there would be like, I don't know, a handful of pros, but you would ride, you were technically within the race, the broom car was still way back, and so you would ride, you'd ride back to town, within the race bubble. And
it's so funny you said that too, because I've been there when and most recently, and this is actually going back a few years, but most recent memory of that was when I was racing in Prospect Park in Brooklyn. We'd have big fields, 80, 100, 110 riders. And so the draft is like crazy, right? It's like riding behind a box truck or a bus or something. So not always at the back sometimes, but I've been there at the back where I see locals. They just, they're in their sneakers or, whatever, their basic bike. And they kind of just jump on, and there would be like riders around me, like screaming, like berating and using all kinds of vulgar language, like get the fuck out of our field, like get out of here. So it was always like kind of a mixed bag, but to your point, that's kind of an amazing tradition too. Of the sport, which brings it into like that. We always talk about what's really interesting about cycling and bike racing is it is so real, right? It's out in the world, it's on the road, and for better or worse, like obviously we've seen disasters where fans get too close, they bring down the whole freaking peloton. That's one extreme, but the cool side of it is people can just interact and like get up close and touch. So it's unique probably that way.
Yeah, and it's something obviously you couldn't do that now. That's like an impossible, they just would not allow it. But back in those days, and it wasn't, you still have to ride. You had to be you had to be in really good shape, and it was generally, it wasn't like, it was just old, like, what in Spain they call a globero, which is here is like a Fred, so you didn't have those guys. These were all like the people that I was hanging with, they were all pretty elite, amateurs.
Yeah. And of course, yeah.
And at the back of the race, you would have a lot of times it would be the local it would be the local
like Cat 1 or Cat 2 or something.
Well, you only had two categories, like Cat 1 and Cat 2, and it was just it was an age thing there, So so you had to be fast. If you were racing at that level, you're fast or you're not racing,
Right.
And But it was the local, like what they call the civil guard there, La Guardia Civil in Spain. On motorcycles, they were kind of, they were watching the back of the race.
Yeah.
But it was the local ones. There was like, the region that you were going through. It would be the local police, which knew all of the cyclists. There was, in fact, some of them were cyclists, right?
You're not one of them.
Yeah. So it's just like, it was always, everybody was in on it because the officials were, bike racers or friends. And so it was just all the guys from Segovia are in the race.
Right.
The guys I was hanging with, or, actually the next year, one of the guys was a professional with Banesco. So it was,
it's pretty cool. They kind of all knew each other. I mean, it just speaks to the intimacy of the sport and the community of the sport too, which I think would feel like really protective. Like if you're in the field, like you don't want some people who shouldn't be there in the field.
Yeah, cycling was so big back then. I mean, it was really like kids wanted to be bicycle racers. Like, you had kids wanted to be Michael Jordan, kids wanted to be, like soccer players and bicycle racers. Like this was the era of Pedro Delgado and Miguel Indurain. So it was actually more during Indurain's reign that I was living there than it was Pedro Delgado was 88. And the whole time I was there was that was Indurain's run. It was a real amazing time to be there. And also just people were super, like being a bike racer was a thing, like being a cyclist was a cool endeavor,
Right.
So yeah, man.
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
What a throwback. So it's funny how the sport is it's very real that way. Obviously it doesn't always go according to plan, but can't think of too many sports quite like it. Obviously some endurance sports would be similar in some ways, like running or something like that.
And it's interesting you were talking about how fast the race is. So I was talking to last week. I think I told you I talked to my coach, and then a couple of days later, I talked to a friend, an old pro. He was a pro with Banesto, and we're, it was just he's still in the bike world and involved in bikes and in racing. He runs like the program, like a juniors program for Cofidis over there. Cool. That runs in line with the Vuelta España. So there's this little like junior category that races at every stage of the Vuelta España in all the different towns. And I think he runs that program.
Nice.
And, just asking him about bike racing and stuff. And he was talking about how the top guys are really not that much faster these days than the top guys were, 10 years ago. So, comparatively, like the numbers of the top racers 10 years ago versus the numbers of the top guys these days are really not that far off. They're not like super off. But he brought up a couple of good points, just things I didn't think about. He's like, yeah, but what's happened is that the average guy now is way, way better. That the rest of the peloton, he's like, yeah, if you remember back in the day when you would hear of a top racer, you would hear about Miguel Indurain going off and doing, altitude training, and you would hear when the top rider on the team and maybe one of his lieutenants would come to Colorado and do high altitude training. He's like, now the entire team does altitude training. The whole, it's much more professional. And so, it's not just the leader of the team that has a power meter. Every single guy on the team has a power meter.
Right.
And so those other guys are way, way faster. So the peloton now is much faster and much fitter. But the top, at the top end, they're not that much, they're not in better shape. But what it means is that the race is really fast because, now the guys that are pulling are in super good shape. Whereas back in the day, you had 100 guys that were kind of in okay shape, and then you had, the 30 guys that were in stellar condition. Now everybody's at least stellar, like everybody's really good. And then you got your top guys. And so, your average speeds are faster because they're pulling from the beginning, and, they obviously going up hills, like everybody's a good climber, nobody's a bad climber anymore. Everybody's a pretty decent climber. And then you've got great climbers, And so I was like, oh, yeah, wow, that's a really, I never thought about it. I never thought about it to that extent, but yeah, he's absolutely right. I remember when, Greg LeMond had a power meter, right? It's like the guy, right? One guy had a power meter.
The original like SRM or something.
Yeah. And it was strictly the leader of the team that would have an SRM, right? And maybe
right.
Eric Zabel would have one.
Bobby Julich had one.
Yeah, but not every single person. And now,
because they were like thousands and thousands. They're like over 10, 20 grand or something crazy.
Yeah, and so now,
can you believe I think the SRM is actually almost like 40 years old. Can you believe that, the original?
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's still really it's still the most expensive one on the market.
Yeah,
it's still really It's the first one that I looked at, Danny, to be honest with you. When I was thinking about getting a power meter, I was like, ooh.
Well, it's the Cadillac, I guess.
Hello, I'm Stijn Wandel from Belgium, and you are listening to the Bike Shop Society podcast.
Hey, Joe, do we need a news roundup?
Yes, we do. And let's do...
It felt like a good segue.
No, that's perfect, man.
We'll keep it relatively short, but got a couple items.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Cool. So just a quick little news roundup. So the racing, obviously we started with Tour de San Juan in Argentina and Tour Down Under in Australia and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed like there was a little bit of a lull, but boom, we're back in the thick of it, and the racing has started, Joe. So I'm pretty stoked. I don't know if you had any time to at least see some highlights or some racing over the weekend, but we had our Northern European Classic season start, and it started with a bang. So we had the opening weekend, as they call it. They literally they should trademark it, the opening weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of cycling fans, this is kind of like the real opening. So we had Omloop, Het Nieuwsblad, and Kuurne Brussels Kuurne, KBK. So 2 back-to-back races. Like these are like the semi-classics, they call them. So they're not quite as long as like the big classics like Tour of Flanders and Roubaix and all that fun stuff. But they're still obviously great races to win, and everyone's coming out to either win or at least sharpen their form for the thick of the season, which is coming in the coming weeks. But anyway, yeah. So for folks who maybe don't follow it, like this is a lot of cycling fans' favorite time of year. So the season runs like mid-January to like late October, and we even have like races in like Asia now. So they kind of almost goes year round, you could say. So but for a lot of folks, this is really the start of the best time of year. Mm-hmm. So it'll go till what is it, mid-April or something with the Ardennes Classics.
Yep.
So anyway, it was some just whatever great racing, and the kind of theme was Jumbo Visma. So the what do they call them, the not the bee killers, but the killer bees, sorry.
Uh-huh.
They dominated. So, Joe, you remember the teams back in the day? We had Mape, U.S. Postal, all these teams that dominated the sport. And so now the team to beat is Jumbo-Visma. Obviously, they had a great year last year, too, but they won both races this weekend, back-to-back. And they just put on a show, and they're bright yellow and black uniforms just at the front of the race, and they really dictated. It really made me think of like some of the older dominant teams. Like Mape is the one that just really stands out for me, where they were able to. Everyone on the team could be a leader on some other team, so it was like even the domestiques, the helpers, were like top riders. So you can like launch all these attacks. You'd have your guys sitting in the peloton resting if the attacks didn't work, and they would come up, and they'd sometimes have 3 guys on the podium. And so Jumbo-Visma, man, they weren't doing much until this weekend, and they really made up for it. So that was pretty cool. I don't know if you caught any of the racing, Joe.
I saw a little bit of the highlights. I saw they took 1 and 3 right on the podium, right? And it looked It was a new guy for Jumbo Visma, right? It's his first year with the team.
Yeah, Dylan Benbarro,
Mhm.
who's like this lovely guy. Love to see when a nice guy wins.
Mhm.
He's, I think, hands down considered by everybody a lovely guy. And he was on EF for a little bit, which was when I got to speak with him briefly. But no, he's just considered this amazing guy. He doesn't win a lot. He hasn't won. He's won fewer than 10 races professionally, but the ones he's won, like he won Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came onto the team.
He's made him count.
So that was pretty cool. Nice guy. For cycling fans, this is the beginning of the best time of year. For a lot of folks, it's all about the spring, and everything else is just kind of gravy, I guess.
Yep.
So that was fun, and Lotta Kopecky won the women's own loop, which was pretty cool. A little bit controversial, as always, in that there was very limited, minimal coverage, which I and a lot of people were really bummed about. So they had like, I don't know what time they started the men's coverage, but I tuned in 2.5 hours to go, and it was like crystal clear, perfect coverage, uninterrupted. And they showed the women's race. They literally showed like the last 15K or something, at least from what I was seeing.
Mhm.
And a lot of people were complaining about it. So that was unfortunate. But there was actually a good women's race as well. So there you had it. So opening weekend kicked off big time. Definitely all this news about Jumbo Visma. And we'll see what's going on. Hopefully we can have some saboteurs coming in and upsetting their situation. That would be kind of cool. And other big news, Joe, do you know that Chris Froome and I have something in common? It's probably the only thing in common.
You guys have like the same height?
No, I'm not sure how tall Chris Froome is. But we both are having some trouble with disc brakes, Joe.
Really? You're having trouble
so-
with your brakes as well?
Well, it's not trouble with a capital T. It's a lowercase t.
Mm-hmm.
But I recently, I've been doing more like gravel riding, and your bike gets pretty filthy. And I had my pads changed, the brake pads, which I needed. They were getting really thin. But the point is, like, I just find like lately there's been some like rubbing. The rotors rubbing on the, which for you is like something you probably deal with all the time. So it's no big news. But I've been kind of like trying to teach myself how to like fix these things. And I'm not saying it's like rocket science, but there's a little bit of a learning curve. So I went out and I bought that tool, that like wedge thing that you can separate, the pads and push the rotors back in. So anyway, I just been kind of tinkering with that. Some success. But it's kind of like just a weird mental thing. Like if you hear a little bit of rubbing, like you feel like it's slowing you down.
Yeah.
It just gets in your head a little bit. Like we didn't have that problem with rim brakes.
Nope.
So Chris Froome, there's some stories out on various sites about Chris Froome was racing in Africa. I don't know if it's fair to say he blamed, the article here says he blamed disc brakes for his poor, his misfortunes at the Tour of Rwanda. And, I don't know if you remember this, Joe, but over the past couple of years, he's actually made videos because he has his own channel now on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. No, I am
And
familiar. Yeah.
So he's made some very specific comments about, I think it's fair to say he prefers rim brakes. And he just didn't see these, as being necessary for the kind of rider he is. And I'm not sure what to say about all that, but I found like disc brakes to be just kind of like high maintenance.
Yeah.
And
Very much so.
sensitive.
Yeah, I mean,
there's not a lot of play in between those pads, man.
No, it's one of the big problems with that, and like one of those things that I think is just so unnecessary for the average rider, to have to deal with. But the bike industry has decided that the bike companies have decided that that's the way that they're going to go. And as far as like for right now, there's no going back. There'd have to be a really big wave of people that just hate them to go back to rim brakes, where that's much more common. I don't know, there could be a time when those bikes start coming back, maybe people get their fill of it, of disc brakes and the problems with them, and people start demanding, rim brake bikes. But right now we're deep into it. Like we're so deep into the world of disc brakes that like a company like Shimano on their top end groups aren't, they're not even offering that an option for rim brakes in some of their top end groups anymore. So, and it's just the trend. It's just where everything is going. So, we'll see. There will always be bikes with rim brakes, but as far as like the really nice stuff, it's you're just not. I don't think you're going to have options for a little bit. At least I don't see anything right now.
Yeah, it's just very interesting, and I haven't, delved deep into this story, but I know he's made a lot of comments about disc brakes, and he seems pretty pissed off. And part of me has to wonder: I'm not saying he's using it as a cheap excuse because he's a great champion, he's a great rider. I have respect for him, so I'm not suggesting he's using it as a cheap excuse. But part of me wonders too if it's he's just not that he's looking for an excuse, but like something like this he'll become obsessed with it. Because he has mentioned it a lot, and it's kind of rare for like a very high level rider, even though he's not quite what he was a few years ago when he was winning. I don't know. It's like this fascinating intersection of like technology, his comeback, if that's what we can call it.
Well,
it's interesting.
I think he's also of an age. He's one of those. He's slightly older right now than a lot of the peloton.
He's probably like early mid-30s, I think.
Yeah, way younger than us, obviously, in a different generation altogether. But he's one of those. He's one of those guys that came into racing with rim brakes and has had to deal with that transition to disc brakes. And so I think it's more just him not caring and speaking his mind, because I do think that it's a general sentiment amongst a lot of guys. I think there's certainly part of the peloton that's embracing the whole disc brake thing. But when they first started showing up, there was a lot of debate about it. And if you if you remember, Sky and Ineos, they were the last guys to adapt to the whole disc. Yeah. They refused to do it, and they were. They were one of the more technologically advanced teams out there. I mean, there's a reason they weren't doing it. I think there's probably way more people that feel like Froome. But there's no way you can say that out loud anymore, especially when your bike sponsor doesn't even make a rim brake bike.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. There was that famous thing I think last year when he was saying that he had his headphones in when he was training on the road, and he could actually still hear his his disc brakes rubbing. Yeah, I remember that going kind of viral. But I do like them in a lot of ways. I'm not like a hater of disc brakes, but. I think, it reminds me, do you remember Cancellara? He never got electronic group sets. They came in when he was aging or, near his retirement. But he never, ever went to electronic. And people are always asking him, like, why don't you do electronic? And he's like, I've always used mechanical. I like the feel of the cables. I like the feel of the road. And it kind of just brought that memory back, because I remember Cancellara really speaking to that. Yeah, disc brakes. There you go. I do find to getting them perfect and keeping them perfectly aligned so they don't rub is a little bit of a challenge. Yeah, no,
I mean it's hard even in the bike shop sometimes. You're just to fine tune those and get all that, especially on a road bike. It's a road on a mountain bike. You get a little bit of you hear a little bit of it maybe in the shop, but when you're out there on the trail, you don't. It's not something you can hear because there's so much going on around you, noise wise. But on a road bike, man, when you're out there and it's quiet and you're on a nice road and just riding along, the slightest whisper. Would drive, I mean, that would just drive me nuts, man. That would drive me nuts.
It would drive me nuts. That's a great point. But also, too, like it would just start to get in my head. And this is kind of pathetic, but it would get into my head that I'm just riding slower. Like I could be going faster, and this is slowing me down. And it technically, literally would be slowing you down, maybe like a fraction.
Danny,
still.
haven't you ever reached back, and hit the quick,
Yes.
Like when you're going when you're going uphill and you're like, I cannot be going this slow. Something's got to be wrong. Like my wheel's got to be rubbing, right? And open up your brake, just in case.
Right.
I've done it. There was many a ride where I'm like, well, just in case I'm going to open up. I can't believe I'm going this slow. or
No,
or
right.
struggling this much, and flip your brake open just in case. And there was no rubber or anything. You were just slow that day, but just that mental,
Yep.
just mentally, you're like, man, there's got to be something wrong. Something's holding me back today.
So like free you from that. Yeah.
Yeah, and on top of it, now you have like a legit thing, like a going around where like it really is rubbing. Oh, forget it, man.
It's not easy,
Enough
and
to drive
I
me
wasn't going to
crazy.
mention it, but literally that happened to me a few days ago.
Uh-huh.
I did a very short, one of those days where I was really busy and I can only get out for like 10 miles. So I did like a half hour ride, and what I had done is I had my bike in the car, and I put the bike with the wheel off in the car because I didn't have the rack on it, and I must have accidentally hit the front brake. And, you obviously don't want to do that. You should have that little plastic spacer in there so the rotors don't close. But for whatever happened, it must have closed somewhat when I put the bike in. So when I took the bike out, I put the front wheel on, and then I went for this ride. And I didn't really do like a check before I went out because I just assumed everything was kosher. And I have to say, I felt like a little sluggish. Like there were these little roller dirt hills, and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of like really laboring today. And I'm like, whatever, maybe I just feel like crap or something. Dead legs or something. And then I got home and I realized as I was coming in the door that the front rotor was rubbing pretty heavily. Like if I spun the wheel, it would only spin like a couple times around and it pretty quickly stopped. So it was like some significant rotor rub. It is what it is. Moving along, Joe. As you know, we're coming back to Chicago. That's my big news. Ha ha ha. But we have another beautiful big race coming up, a whole week actually. So there's a cool race tomorrow, but by the time this comes out, it'll be old. But that's La Semaine. I think it's pronounced. That's that cool kind of semi off-road race with some dirt roads and maybe a little gravel in France. So that's always a fun one. It's kind of like the hipster's favorite race. But more important, I think Saturdays we have Strade Bianche. So that's coming up. The white roads in Italy. Quickly becoming a lot of people's favorite race. I know we talked on the pod, probably on a really early episode, Joe, about people wanting Strade Bianche to become a full-on classic or a monument, I should say.
Yeah.
One of the 5 monuments, make it number 6. So unfortunately, Wout van Aert is out. I just saw that a minute ago. Late news, but anyway, that's such a great race, right? I mean, it's so beautiful. It's on these white roads in Italy, and
yeah,
it's so iconic. It's so beautiful. It finishes in Siena. It's just gorgeous, and it's what a great way to kind of really get the season going too.
I don't really remember that. I mean, that's something that's happened maybe in the last 15 years or so. That race really coming on the scene, because before that it was not. It was never on our radar. It certainly wasn't anything that I was even aware of in this. I mean, it wasn't something that we were.
It kind of snuck up, and then it kind of exploded. Like everyone's like, "We love this race!" Suddenly,
it was like an internet sensation. It was like it did happen during the internet era, like the Twitter era. I think like once Twitter came on board, you started hearing a little bit about that race. But before that, it was like, it's been going on for a long time. In Italy, it was like an Italian thing, but not even in Europe. It wasn't even something that I'd ever heard of when I was living in Spain. It wasn't something that like a go-to event. It's really big now, but it existed in kind of in anonymity for a really long time.
So yeah, it's really fun, and it's just been like a great race to follow. And I feel like eventually it's going to become a monument. We've had those same 5 forever. Other than that, yeah, I feel like the season is kicked off. I don't have a lot of other news. I'm just looking forward to getting back and doing some rides. And sorry, I have one thing to ask you. I just remember this.
Yeah.
When you were at Cabda last week and a half ago, did you happen to see Ted King?
No, I did not.
I was listening to a podcast today, the Fast Cat coaching podcast. Fast Cat. I don't know if you know Fast Cat.
No.
But it's like a coaching company.
Okay.
Anyway, on the podcast today, they had Ted King, or it was recent. I listened to it today, but he had mentioned he was just in Chicago at a trade show.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God, was he at Cabda? So I just thought I would ask you, because that would be kind of news related. But were there any other bike trade shows in Chicago of late, or?
No,
Could we
no.
possibly been missing something?
No, I mean, maybe Shram did something. Shram's always doing like, some of that bicycle. I mean, they've got that foundation through them, that not for profit, and so maybe they did something. Maybe he's associated with them, but
that could be it.
But no, I mean, I didn't. If he very well could have been at Cabdo with a sponsor or something, or with the brand that he works with, and I just, I missed him. Honestly, a lot of the bike racer guys, when you see them dressed up in regular clothes, they in a crowd like that, everybody looks the same. It's one of my running gags with at cycling trade shows. I'll stop one of the security guards and I ask them if they saw my friend. And I'm like, he's wearing a black shirt. He's got a tattoo. He's got these big hoop earrings in his ear.
Right.
And he's got and they'll look at me and they're just like, you just described everybody at this show. And then I just laugh and I'm like, I know. I'll see you later.
Oh, man, that's funny.
But that's like I mean, a lot of people are. It's just a very any of those outdoor shows, bike shows. It's like everyone's in kind of. It's unless you know somebody, it's very hard. Sometimes it's hard to pick people out in a crowd. So
no, for sure. Mm-hmm. So there's your news. Little quick roundup for folks who care.
Cool, man. Let me I'm going to close the newsroom.
Slam the door.
Yes, and well, good.
Time flies on this show, Joe. We have so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no kidding, it flies. We've been blabbing. Yeah, I guess we're excited for the season. It's starting out well. You're coming back home. It's been a successful couple of months for you out there. Done a lot of riding. The shop for me has been. It's I guess now that I'm where I'm at and things are working out kind of how I wanted them to. It's like that's a good thing too. And it looks like we're headed in the right direction for this season, Danny.
Yeah, man, totally. I'm really excited, and I'm glad to hear the shop sounds like it's really maybe going to be its best year. I don't know. It sounds like you got like great team, and you're coming in hot. You got some new energy.
Certainly the best year in a while. I mean, it's nice. It's it's nice to have made the changes that we're making, and it's good. It feels like we're on the right track. Like we've navigated some rough waters over the last few years, and I think we've made the proper adjustments. And it's still a work in progress, but I'm pretty happy with the direction we're headed.
Yeah.
So
well, fingers crossed.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, I think we're doing the right thing. So you and us, and hopefully our listeners.
Yeah, and if people want to get in touch, they know how to reach us, but find us on all the socials, do a web search, Bike Shop Society. Yeah. And hit us up if you have questions, comments, complaints, anything fun, interesting. We'd love to hear from you. I'm serious. I really want to hear from people, and you can reach us on all the socials and just go to the Bike Shop Society website. It's easy to find.
All right, Danny.
All right, Joe, it's been fun. I'll see you in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. The next time you talk, we might be in person.
Yeah, man. Hopefully IRL.
All right, man. Take care. Good night.